Winds up with a slap shot. Oh, he's go home. Runs the line. Shoots. He's go home. And a great body check that stopped in his track. Dubois shot. He's go home.
And good morning from Canada Life Centre in downtown Winnipeg. Another Winnipeg Jets game day, and because it was also a game day yesterday, well, that means it's an optional morning skate. And as you can see, a very few players on the ice. Dylan Sandberg still in that non-contact yellow as he kind of continues to work his way back from that high ankle sprain. The Jets, of course, taking on the New York Islanders tonight. It's the first time they're playing an Eastern Conference opponent so far this season. It actually only happens 3 times over the course of the first couple of months. The Islanders, meanwhile, they're on a 13-game road trip to start the year. Yes, you heard that right. 13 games. And yet, they're still 4-2-2. They're waiting for their new building to be done back home in Long Island. So, of course, excited to see how that building's going to shape up. I've kind of been following it a little bit on Twitter just to see. I'm curious like that. Anyways, as you can see, optional skate for the Winnipeg Jets. The majority of the team taking part in a meeting that just got underway a couple of minutes ago. So when the players and head coach Paul Maurice address the media, we, of course, will bring that to you live on the JetsTV Live pregame show presented by Budweiser. We'll still have all you'll need to get ready for Jets and Islanders tonight, even though it's an abbreviated show, giving Jamie Thomas and Paul Edmonds the day off. We'll let them rest. Got to rest those vocal cords. Had a big call last night in the big 5-1 win over the Chicago Blackhawks. So they'll be back on the next pregame show. But we will still have all your relevant information like the 50-50, the Jets gear save of the game, plenty more. But first, of course, let's get it started with a look back at last night with Game in 60. The Winnipeg Jets offense started rolling less than a minute into Friday's game against the Chicago Blackhawks, and it never stopped as 5 different goal scorers powered the Jets to a 5-1 win. The goals came off the sticks of Paul Stastny, Neil Pionk, Dominic Toninato, Kyle Connor, and Nikolai Ehlers, while Andrew Kopp posted 3 assists in the victory.
Now for Toninato, cutting toward the net with a shot. Oh, he scores!
Add it all up, and the Jets are 6-2-2 for 14 points in the standings, their best start since relocating to Winnipeg in 2011.
I don't know. I think we're still very excited about where we could get to here. Right? There's still lots to learn. There's lots of development to happen. We're playing with a lot of different things. I've liked the way we've played.
Eric Comrie doing a bunch of clapping there, but really, I mean, he should be applauded as well. 17 saves last night on 18 shots. He's 3-0 so far as a member of the Winnipeg Jets so far this season in the 3 games he's played. I mean, that's just a fantastic start for him. You go back to his last start last year, he's actually won each of his last 4 games. He's got a .922 save percentage so far this year, so big ups to Eric Comrie, who just might get the start in back-to-back games tonight. Still no update on Connor Hellebuck at this point. We'll wait for head coach Paul Maurice to give an update on that. So once he hits the podium, of course, we'll bring that to you live. But for fans that are coming down to the game or want to take advantage of it, the save of the game tonight, all 2019 Heritage Classic Navy jerseys are now 25% off. Look at those things right there. Choose from men's, women's, and kids sizes available at any of our Jets gear booths located through the concourse. That's 25% off all remaining 2019 Heritage Classic jerseys, Jets Gear, the official team store of the Winnipeg Jets. You can see that goes till November 9th, so you're running out of time. The other event that you want to keep in mind, the Ducky Pond Hockey Classic. Registration's underway for the inaugural Ducky Pond Hockey Classic, which goes from January 13th to 16th out at Camp Manitou. There's an open division and a women's division capped at 72 teams, so you're going to want to get your registration in as soon as possible. You win your division, you head to the World Pond Hockey Classic in Plaster Rock, New Brunswick next year. And if all that doesn't sound good enough, there's going to be entertainment, viewing party of the Jets game on Saturday, food trucks, and much more, with proceeds going to a number of charities such as Howard Chuck Strong and the True North Youth Foundation. To register or for more info, head to duckypondhockeyclassic.ca. Now, as we wait, of course, it's a morning skate with very few skaters on the ice, so it's hard to tell projected lineups, but in a back-to-back situation, highly likely the Winnipeg Jets are going to go back to that 11-7. And why wouldn't you? I mean, take a look. You had the Connor Dubois-Svechnikov line, who were once again electric last night. Kyle Connor scoring the 4th goal of the game for the Winnipeg Jets. Actually, there's been no player. Kyle Connor's sitting with 16 points right now. No player since the Jets have relocated to Winnipeg has had that kind of start. Anybody that was in franchise history, dating back to even the Atlanta days, only one player has beaten that. That's Ilya Kovalchuk with 17 points through 10 games. So that's something to keep an eye on. Stastny, Kopp, and Ehlers were absolutely electric last night. They were fun to watch. But before we get into anything else, let's go next door. Matt Frost Media Center. Players are ready.
Good. Yeah, I feel really good. Back to feeling 100%, and so yeah, just excited about being back with the guys and the team playing really well.
What are the signs? You know your body, you know what you can and can't do. What are the signs when you know that things are right?
Just being able to push. I think that's the biggest thing for me is just the consistency shift to shift and just being able to kind of max out every shift. So that's what I'm looking for. I think the first game in San Jose was kind of like a stepping stone in a sense, and then last two felt really good.
Blake, how have you found the last couple of games with the matchups and that sort of thing? Playing with Adam and Mark, has there been a noticeable difference at all in terms of what you're normally used to facing before the COVID struck?
Yeah, I think it's I think for Mark and I, we're used to facing, especially at home. It's between our line and Lauz's line was getting kind of the other team's best offensive line on most nights, and I think that's what Paul's looking for is obviously with Lauz, such a great two-way player, and Mark as well, being a great two-way center. So we're definitely starting a little bit more in the D zone, but I think it's a great it's been a great matchup for our entire lineup. We try to do a good job, and those other two lines are getting some good matchups and really taking advantage of it.
No disrespect to Chicago, but this game tonight, I know Paul had mentioned that it was going to look a lot different. The Islanders, are they one of those teams that I know there's an East and West divide, but do they play more of a Western Conference style of game, say more so than other teams in the East?
Well, they play heavy. I mean, it's what's given them success. I mean, it's a 200-foot battle, and they don't give you a whole lot of time and space. There's not going to be a whole lot of plays to be made. Offensively, we can't get frustrated if we're not spending tons of time on the outside and making plays in the offensive zone. We got to be okay with trying to do it kind of a little bit tougher way tonight, and I think that's what gives them success is teams they get tired of playing that game, they get frustrated playing that game. And then those guys have some offensive players that can make you pay when you do that.
You were part of that Rangers-Islanders rivalry. What stood out from your time on that side in the East?
Yeah, kind of like what Wheels just said. They're heavy, but along with that heaviness and that grit, they also have some skill. So they're a pretty complete team in that sense, and we're gonna have to match that physicality in order to compete with them tonight.
Once upon a time, this is less about the Islanders, pardon me, but I assumed everybody from Minnesota had to be best friends. You guys got together on the same team, Now I see you together, and I asked Blake at one point to talk about Northern Minnesota hockey. He didn't want to indulge. What is that rivalry like coming up and playing against the cities for a Northern guy like you?
Yeah, it was the North versus the South, the smaller schools of the North versus the big schools of the South. So that was always a huge rivalry. Obviously, when you get out of high school and college and you get into pro, you just associate with any Minnesota guy you can. But that was always a big divide growing up.
It would be the Shelbyville to Hermantown's Springfield.
Shelbyville?
A rival town.
Oh, to Hermantown's?
Yeah.
Duluth Marshall. Yeah.
Like, what have you seen from Andrew Kopp? Obviously, you've been around him for a long time. What's it been like to see his development?
Yeah, I mean, he's worked really hard on his game over the years. Obviously he's been a really important two-way player for us. That line with Laus has been really important to us over the years, and I think between him and Stas and Nicky, there's some chemistry there. Those guys are they seem to click, and he's just I think he's getting an opportunity to play in the middle. I think that's where he probably excels the most, and he's taking advantage of it. So it's great to see a guy that works hard get rewarded.
You referenced the work with Adam Oates. Obviously, you've worked with him specifically, and also on scene. How does a guy become a better finisher?
I don't know if he's become a better finisher. I think he's in a role now where he's getting more opportunities. You can't really talk about a guy being a finisher or not being a finisher if you're not getting opportunities. I mean, now he's getting a lot of minutes on the power play. Playing in a more offensive role with two offensive players, getting matchups. Where they're leaned on to produce. So he's always had the capabilities of finishing. Just getting more chances.
What have you learned about Andrew in these seasons playing with him?
I think the biggest thing that jumped out to me is his hockey IQ, not only off the ice but on the ice. He's one of those guys that always seems to be in the right position, and when he has the puck, he's looking for it, or he can at least sense where you are. So that's one of the biggest things that's jumped out to me.
Neil, as a defensive unit, but you in particular with that junkyard dog mentality you have, how excited do you get when you've got an opponent coming in and they have a line like that, Martin Cizikas rather, and Clutterbuck line? Does that kind of get the juices going a little bit because it's going to be one of those nights when they're on the ice?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I bring the same mentality into every game, no matter who we're playing. But certainly, you look at a line like that's really physical and can bring a lot of energy to their team. You look to match that throughout the game.
It's been a weird 10 games, obviously, for you and Mark, for well-documented reasons. The club's still 6-2-2, and you guys haven't had to make that major impact. Have you talked about what it's going to be like when? I mean, it could start as soon as tonight, but have you thought about the positives of the club being able to win like that, sort of without that duo clicking quite yet?
You're talking about just points?
Mark scores a big goal in the shootout, obviously, and there's little things. But you're right. I mean, making a huge impact where the line gets all of a sudden 4 or 5 points one night. And
you're talking points.
I'm talking specifically about points.
About points. Okay. I've felt like the last 2 games we've made a big impact on the game. I feel like you play 20 minutes and play against the other team's top lines and playing hard, and I feel like the opportunities have been there. Overall, we're trying to win hockey games. So you're not going to see Mark and I coming in here and complaining about lack of production when we've played 2 games together and our teams, since the first 2 games of the year, we're, what's our record? You would know. You're the numbers guy. It's pretty good, right? So to answer your question, that hasn't been discussed a whole lot. There's a lot of smiling faces in the room. It's a great vibe. We're enjoying winning.
Aside from the points as well, I mean, last night I think there's maybe 3 I would call it goal-saving plays from Scheifele coming back. There's one in Kubalik against, pardon me. You got a few of those from Dubois as well, or what have you. Can you speak to that from that strength down the middle, that these offensive guys are also doing that kind of thing?
I mean, that's everything. It's about winning. I think at the end of the season, you'll probably see Mark Scheifele having a ton of points. But those types of plays resonate throughout the lineup way more than Scheif scoring a goal he's going to do that, and that's going to happen. But when you see your best players, playing 200 feet and playing hard and making plays like that, I mean, that's what buy-in's all about, and that's at the end of the season when all the points don't matter anymore. we don't talk about points, we talk about winning. Those are the plays that's how you win, you know, and that's the most important thing.
It's been like to see that balance on display from your three lines, everyone contributing in all those ways, and then you get a chip in from the fourth line yesterday as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to need it throughout the year. I think that's kind of how our lineup is structured right now. There's balance. There's, you know, it gives Paul the ability to play the matchup game, especially at home. And, you know, I think that's playing into a big strength of ours, you know, including our defensemen. You know, we have, you know, Comrie coming in and playing great in goal for us. I mean, it's just having depth is just it means everything in this league. You know, you can only lean on so much for so long, but if you have different people stepping up every night, and that's how you get on a run in this league.
Just one quick one for Neil. 10 games in, the relationship you had with Brandon back there, I mean, it seems pretty seamless right now. Is that how it feels for you?
Yeah, it's been great. It's been great to just do the little things, you know, get to know him on and off the ice, and talking in between plays and building chemistry throughout the season. It's been great. Like obviously the biggest thing that sticks out with him is his physicality, but what people don't see sometimes is his hockey IQ. Like he's a pretty smart player back there too, and that's what's given him success over his career.
So obviously, again, Blake said I sometimes look to points, but I mean offensively, you're really flashing those gifts lately. And you attribute that to a lot of the trust you have in him.
Certainly, yeah. We have to trust each other, and if we make plays with each other, it'll work out. You know, I always say we have to play defense first, but we can contribute with the offense as well.
Thank you.
It's Blake Wheeler and Neil Pionk getting things started media-wise this morning as the Winnipeg Jets prepare to take on the New York Islanders. Just an optional skate for the Jets this morning, and a meeting that commenced at 10:30, so we're getting through the media part of it. Now, we'll take a quick look at the matchup board just to size up these two teams tonight. Like I mentioned off the top, the Islanders are 8 games into a 13-game road trip to start the season. So to be 4-2-2 for them, pretty solid start. Jets power plays third in the National Hockey League at 29%. But if you even dive deeper into that number at home, it's even better. It's producing at a 50% clip. That's the best in the National Hockey League at home. The Islanders penalty kill 22nd in the NHL. As for the PK, the Islanders power play is 22nd in the NHL. As for the PK, the Islanders sit 13th in the National Hockey League, while the Jets still have some work to do at 31st in the NHL, but they were 2 for 2 against Chicago last night and have killed off 10 of the last 12, so the improvement is showing. Blake Wheeler kind of touched on his line with Mark Scheifele and Adam Lowry and the kinds of matchups that they're getting and what they kind of expect, and how the lines have really they've been able to kind of spread out the offense a little bit. Last night was a great example of that. Now, Scheifele, Wheeler, Lowry, they maybe necessarily don't get a goal for themselves on the board, but they played really well. And sometimes with them taking, say, the opposition's best, it frees up some of the other lines to do what they do best. And you look at how it kind of broke down as per natural stat trick last night. Of course, Andrew Kopp has 3 assists, but that line, in terms of shot attempts, was at 5-on-5, 81%. In other words, 81% of the shot attempts that happened while they were on the ice at 5-on-5 went towards the Chicago net. It was 9-2 differential in that regard. And you go all the way across to things like high danger chances, it was 2-0 for them. And then the other line that was real good was Kyle Connor, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Evgeny Svechnikov. They just continue to grow together. Pierre-Luc Dubois, even though his 8-game point streak came to an end against Chicago, unfortunately for him, I mean, he'll take the win any way that the team can get it. They were also solid at 75%. This is Kyle Connor's goal from the other night. Team lead in goals in that category with 8. And it really just kind of shows how tough this team can be to contain. I mean, this is just Nate Schmidt playing it in transition. A nice little chip play from Kyle Connor in the neutral zone, and he's able to get up the ice and beat Marc-Andre Fleury. Just a perfect shot, and we've seen a lot of perfect shots off the stick of Kyle Connor. The other thing that we want to talk about is the guy that's second on the team in points right now, and that's Andrew Kopp. He spoke to the media last night. He had 3 assists. He's got 12 points. And so much talk this morning and even last night about the continued development of Andrew Kopp, and there's a reason why. Check out some of these passes from last night. So here's one. This is the game's opening goal to Paul Stastny. Stastny said last night, he was like, you know, a guy sends a saucer pass over 2 sticks. All of a sudden you've got it in alone. It's not really a whole lot of time to think. You just want to finish it for the guy. And then this one we'll skip ahead. This is the 5th goal. This is Nikolai Ehlers, another guy on that line that had a fantastic night. He was all around it last night, but was finally gets the reward. His parents and his sister in the crowd. So fantastic for him to be able to get on the board. He's a guy that's, you take a look at, shots on goal and guys that, have been able to lead the team in that category. Nikolai Ehlers is perpetually at the top of that list. And this is another opportunity from Andrew Kopp. This is on Dominic Toninato's goal. Just another seeing eye pass. Now, we will see on one replay that this does deflect slightly off of a stick, but I still think that pass was getting through. Either way, and this is also a benefit of the Winnipeg Jets being able to play 11 forwards and 7 defensemen like we anticipate that they're going to do tonight. There it is, going off of a stick right there. Still a great finish from Dominic Toninato. That's his first as a member of the Jets in the regular season. The benefit of playing 11 and 7 is you are able to squeeze in some extra minutes, and Nikolai Ehlers was just coming on the ice with Toninato and Jansen Harkins when he was able to score the 5th goal of the game. You're able to get a few more minutes for guys like Nikolai Ehlers, Kyle Connor, but it also, I would think, for Dominic Toninato and Jansen Harkins, while your line mate continues to constantly change, it's also keeping you in the flow of the game a little bit better, I would think. So they obviously took great advantage of that last night. Always good to see Dominic Toninato get on the board. Here's Nikolai Ehlers just getting onto the ice and then just absolutely ripping it. You can tell Marc-Andre Fleury not happy with himself after that. He was a guy, and honestly, Jets win 5-1, but it could have been 8 or 9-1. Like, Marc-Andre Fleury still made a number of great stops. Couple on Kyle Connor that I remember. He stopped Blake Wheeler on a breakaway. So, I mean, it was a night where the Jets seemingly were generating chances whenever they wanted to. The high danger chances last night, according to Natural Stat Trick, 13-1 in favor of the Winnipeg Jets. So it was, about as good of a 60-minute effort as you can expect. Now, Paul Maurice, the Winnipeg Jets, 6-2-2, the best start since the team has relocated to Winnipeg in 2011. So they still think, though, that there's another place for them to go. You look at last night's game against Chicago. Paul Maurice felt there was a little bit of a lull in their game in that final about 10 minutes of the first and into the 10 minutes of the second. Now, they get the offside review that tends to switch that back. It was 2-0 Jets. Chicago scores early in the second period to make it 2-1. That goal gets pulled off due to an offside review. But that was in and around the time, and Paul Maurice warned us about that in the morning skate. Just that there's going to be points in the game where Chicago, a team that he feels has been close, they just haven't been able to find ways to win games, but they've been generating a lot of offense and a lot of offensive chances. They just weren't able to string them together into wins. They took the Carolina Hurricanes, who were 8-0 at the time, took a 3-2 lead over the Carolina Hurricanes into the third period. Now, ultimately, yes, of course, end up losing that game. Carolina sits 9-0 at this point. Meanwhile, Chicago is 1-9-2. So Chicago, it wasn't an opponent that the Winnipeg Jets were able to just look past. They had to do a number of things right, and Paul Maurice anticipated that there was going to be some time where Chicago would, be able to get some control of the play. He felt that happen kind of in that opening part of the second period. Chicago gets a goal, wiped off the board by an offside review, and then the Jets were able to take it from there. The other positive that I think we can take from the game last night for the Winnipeg Jets is how they played in that third period. Yes, they give up the goal to Mackenzie Entwistle 56 seconds into the period. Not ideal, but at that point, of course, you're up 4-0, now 4-1. But they were able to kind of lock it down from there. They did. You look back at the game against the Dallas Stars when Jets had a 2-goal lead, and all of a sudden it turned into 3-3, and here we are in overtime and a shootout against the Dallas Stars. The Jets were able to lock that down a little bit better, I think, in the third period against the Chicago Blackhawks. One of the things to look at is shots on goal. Jets outshot Chicago 15-4 in that final 20 minutes. The shot attempts at 5-on-5 were 20-9. Chicago wasn't really able to generate much. So that's a real good sign from the Winnipeg Jets. And what that also slides into is Eric Comrie. So no update at this point on Connor Hellebuck. We haven't we're just awaiting Paul Maurice in the Matt Frost Media Center. I'm sure he'll have an update in that regard. Once again, Paul Maurice saying yesterday that Connor Hellebuck tested negative for COVID-19, so that's important. Now there's got to be a certain number of tests before he can rejoin the team. It's all a matter of just having symptoms. So we'll get that update from Paul Maurice when he meets the media shortly. But for Eric Comrie, now he's played, like I said, he's played 3 games this season, made 17 saves last night. But that workload in the third period is important because, a goaltender, and this is the way Paul Maurice kind of looks at it, first period into the second period, into the early third period, you're feeling good. If that workload for Eric Comrie had gotten a lot higher in that third period, say it was they were under siege and there was, instead of 15-4 for Winnipeg and shots on goal, it's 15-4 the other way for Chicago, it gets a little bit more difficult to make the decision on Eric Comrie going back-to-back. But because Eric Comrie only faced 18 shots and only 4 of them came in that third period, there's a little bit more of a thought process behind being able to put him in. Of course, Mikhail Burton is the backup currently, depending on Connor Hellebuck's status, but Hellebuck has not been able to skate in a few days. So my guess is there likely won't be a change in goal for the Winnipeg Jets tonight. Eric Comrie will get his chance. Now, this may be, if Eric Comrie does in fact get the start, it would be his first set of back-to-backs in the National Hockey League where he plays. However, you make your way in the American Hockey League like Eric Comrie has, you've done the back-to-back, you've done the 3-3s. So Eric Comrie, no stranger to that, something that he certainly could handle. The interesting part is going to be, and Neil Pionk kind of touched on it in his address to the media there, basically saying that, it's an Eastern Conference team, but it's going to be a little bit of a challenge because just the way that the New York Islanders play, and some of the makeup of their forward lines, they're not an easy group to play against whatsoever. And Paul Maurice echoed that last night. He said this is a group that it's not going to be like the game against the Chicago Blackhawks. The offense probably not going to come as easy. I mean, the games that I think of against the New York Islanders, unfortunately, in this particular example, the Jets come up on the wrong side of it, but it was in this building, 1-1 game in the final 2 minutes, and all it took was the Jets not being able to get a dump in deep. Puck comes back the other way. The Islanders win the game 2-1. So it's stuff like that, very small details that seem small in the grand scheme of a 60-minute hockey game. But ultimately, that's where this New York Islanders team has been able to excel over the last number of years. Of course, they went to the Eastern Conference Final against the Tampa Bay Lightning last year, and ultimately coming up short in Game 7 by a 1-0 score. So a tough finish to the year for the New York Islanders, who are once again just a fantastic hockey team, but ran into, now the back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. The Islanders up front, led by Brock Nelson. He's got 6 goals in 8 games. Right behind him, Anthony Beauvillier, 3 goals, 4 assists. Oliver Wahlstrom's got 5 goals, and Josh Bailey, a goal and 4 assists. Of course, missing on that Islanders roster that we got so used to hearing is Jordan Eberle, who is now a member of the Seattle Kraken. Matthew Barzal, another guy that obviously the Jets and all the team's defensemen and forwards have to keep an eye on. Matthew Barzal, 3 goals, 1 assist in 8 games so far this year. So Islanders, as always, real nice spread out offense, a team that has presented a challenge for the Winnipeg Jets over the last couple of seasons. Ilya Sorokin has played 8 games so far for the Islanders. He's got a 2.23 goals against average and a .933 save percentage. Let's look one more time at the projected lineups. Jets once again wanting to go with 11 forwards and 7 defensemen, and we had talked about how good the Connor Dubois-Svechnikov line, Stastny, Kopp, Ehlers. Kopp, of course, having 3 assists last night. Nikolai Ehlers continuing to contribute in all the ways that he does, whether it's zone entries, speed, shots on goal, creating. Paul Stastny, one of the members of the Jets, with 3 goals so far on home ice. That's tied for the team lead. And we talked about Harkins and Toninato as well. Josh Morrissey, Nate Schmidt, just another group of guys that a defensive group that has played very well. Nate Schmidt led the Jets defenseman in ice time last night at 19:38 and picked up an assist. Now has 9 points on the season, which is one shy of his 2021 total. And he finished +3, tying a career high accomplished on 19 other occasions. So we talked about Andrew Kopp. That's a career high of 3 assists in one game. He's had 2 assists in one game on 11 other occasions, and also marked the 5th career game with 3 or more points for Andrew Kopp. He spoke last night about the work that he's done with Adam Oates, and Blake Wheeler's also worked with Adam Oates a little bit over the course of his career. And he said it's interesting because it's not necessarily that Andrew Kopp has become a better finisher. And I thought Andrew Kopp dove into this really well yesterday, where he said, yes, it's about opportunity, it's about all that stuff. But when he came into the league, he felt really comfortable in that defensive zone and making his defensive reads, knowing who was on the ice and where they were. So now it's just become a mindset of, okay, well, let's apply that at the other end of the ice. And what they're able to do, what he's able to do then, is obvious. Has a career year last year, scores 4 goals in a game against the Vancouver Canucks. Of course, that's not going to happen all the time. But when things are going for you, things are going for you. So Andrew Kopp just finding ways to continue to produce for the Winnipeg Jets no matter where he is. It was interesting to hear from Paul Maurice that they might shift him out to the wing in some situations just to free up some speed. But, man, I mean, it pretty much seems wherever you put Andrew Kopp at this point, he's making things happen. Evgeny Svechnikov as well, playing on that line with Kyle Connor and Pierre-Luc Dubois, led the Jets with a career-high 5 hits. His previous best was 4 on March 30th while he was playing for the Detroit Red Wings. Kyle Connor, goal and an assist last night, his 5th multi-point game already this season, now 4th in the National Hockey League with 16 points. He led the Jets with 7 shots on goal, and that reminds me of Pierre-Luc Dubois the other night, also had 7 shots on goal and was just like, it just felt like the puck was following him that night. You get all those looks. Pierre-Luc Dubois, another guy that had a bunch of great looks last night against the Chicago Blackhawks. We mentioned that his point streak came to an end. Still, he had 4 shots on goal. He was 70% in the dot. The Jets were dominant in the faceoff dot last night, winning. It was 53% by the end of the night, but at one point early in the third period, it was something in around 61% to 39%. It was a really strong performance by the Winnipeg Jets in that regard. Just waiting for head coach Paul Maurice to meet the media. No doubt he's chatting with likely the broadcasters right now, so might have to send a text to Jamie Thomas to be like, hey man, like, the fans want to hear from him. Don't necessarily, you've asked enough questions. But before he gets in, let's check out some promo boards. We'll start with the keychain that's coming up. That's in just a few days. You can see there's the keychain there. Got one of those license plates, actually, and you should too, if you can. Obviously, it goes to a good cause, but if you don't want to get the license plates, you can definitely get the keychains. That's November 9th, the Heritage License Plate Keychain Giveaway. Be sure to get your tickets at winnipegjets.com/tickets to get your one-of-a-kind keychain. The other thing you can do today while you're waiting for either A, Paul Maurice, or B, just before you head down to the In the Plaza event across the street a few hours before game time, don't forget to check in to win, powered by Skip the Dishes, at tonight's game. You could win a pair of tickets to an upcoming Jets rivalry game. Plus, you can win additional prizes by playing a variety of exciting interactive games like Codebreaker, powered by Skip the Dishes, Jets IQ, and the Over-Under Challenge presented by Betway. If you don't have the Jets app, visit winnipegjets.com/app, join the fun, and check in to win now. Also, November, clearly a very important month on the hockey calendar, as it's Hockey Fights Cancer Month. We want to join the fight, and we want you to join the fight as well. You can support by buying a warm-up jersey raffle ticket, purchasing a mystery puck or mini stick like Daniel Moss did last night, or making a cash donation by visiting winnipegjets.com/hockeyfightscancer. All proceeds raised will be donated directly to Cancer Care Manitoba, going to support children and youth in their fight against cancer. Help hockey fight cancer today. What else do you want to do? Well, it's past 9:30 a.m. on a game day, and that means It's time to buy your Winnipeg Jets 50/50 tickets presented by PlayNow.com. Tickets go on sale every game day starting at 9:30 a.m. Buy yours online before the end of the third period of today's game to be included in the draw. The winner will take home half of the jackpot with all proceeds in support of the True North Youth Foundation. Buy your 50/50 tickets now at winnipegjets.com/50/50. That's winnipegjets.com/50/50. And hey, if you need something to listen to, if you're not sick of my voice yet, you can listen to Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets. Christian Vesalainen, who played for the Manitoba Moose last night in Milwaukee, before he was reassigned during the Connor Hellebuck not feeling well, also welcoming a new baby into the world part of the week. He was with the Winnipeg Jets, and he chatted with Tyler Esquivel. We talked a little bit about, he started training camp with hair. I think first preseason game, that hair wasn't there anymore. So we didn't know if it was a haircut gone wrong or what was the story. You get the story behind that, and then you can also find out how it inspired, we'll say, his Halloween costume that came a little bit later. So that's the Ground Control podcast. You can get that wherever you get your favorite podcasts. The other event that I will turn your attention to, other than in the Plaza, which gets underway a few hours before puck drop, a reminder, you don't need tickets to go to In the Plaza. Like, you don't need tickets to the game. Show up, proof of vaccination, and you can take in things like hot stoves, some entertainment, some great food, as you saw on the post-game show last night. You have a chance to get that. The other thing, December 1st, 2021, is the Winnipeg Jets Gala presented by Scotiabank. If you're interested in receiving more information, sponsoring the event, purchasing a ticket, you can call 204-926-5524 or email jetsgala@tnse.com. And we got a lot of promos going on right now. Fans at the November 13th game, which is the annual Canadian Armed Forces Night, will have a chance to show their gratitude for the Canadian Armed Forces. Of course, that's one of the best times of the year where some season seat holders donate their tickets to Armed Forces members. They're able to come to the game. There's the big photo on the ice at the end. We weren't able to do that last year. So really looking forward to being able to welcome people back into the building, especially Canadian Armed Forces, as well as our kind of way of saying thank you. Jets, of course, will wear those Armed Forces jerseys and warm up. If you're curious what they're looking like, head to winnipegjets.com and you can see a photo of that. Just when you get to the website, click on News, scroll down a little bit, and there it'll be. You can check out the jerseys and all the information about that as well. Waiting for head coach Paul Maurice. Blake Wheeler and Neil Pionk have already spoken to the media, so head coach Paul Maurice no doubt coming shortly to update things, whether it's on his lineup. We once again anticipate 11 forwards and 7 defensemen for the Winnipeg Jets. No point fixing what isn't broken in that regard. Your Jets are 6-0-2 in their last 8 games, and if they're able to get a point tonight, of course they'd love to get 2 points. That would tie the best in franchise history in terms of stretches with at least a point. So Jets are going to be wanting to do absolutely everything that they can in that regard to make that happen. And then the other thing for Paul Maurice to give us an update on is A, Connor Hellebuck's status, and B, who's going to be between the pipes for the Winnipeg Jets tonight. And we do believe that will be Eric Comrie. Hard to think it would be anybody else at this point. Jets, once again, we talked a little bit about special teams a little bit earlier when the matchup board was up. Power plays rolling, one of the best in the National Hockey League at 50% on home ice, 29% overall. And head coach Paul Maurice is going to have to change what he calls some of those power play units because he just goes after the last person who scored. Neil Pionk now owns one of those power play units. Speaking of Paul Maurice, he's next door.
Hellebuck, how's he making them?
Yeah, good. I think he was putting a bit into play tonight, but we couldn't do it. So.
Well, he hasn't even skated at all. Much Saturday,
No, but he still thinks he wanted to get in the net tonight. No, if all goes well here over the next 24 hours, we'll get a light skate with him on an off day tomorrow, and then he'll practice full the next day. But we aren't out of that wood yet.
17 saves would for somebody who didn't see the hockey game, I think that was a light night. But he had to come up big a couple times, particularly when the score was still 2-0.
Yep, I mean that's going to happen, right? Like. The volume of shots doesn't tell you a whole lot about the work level of a guy, you got to look at zone time too, because then they're in their crouch and they're moving. How many penalty kills you had, because that's a really intense physical environment for a goaltender, because you'd be close to in your crouch and wired for 2 straight minutes at a time, we think. And especially because our third kind of allowed him not to have to dig deep to fight through that game, that he should be strong. And he wouldn't admit it if he didn't, but he said he felt great the day, and he does have a history of 2-2, 3-3, so he's earned the right to go back in.
Well, we talked a lot about balance, but what does it do on the bench when Mark Scheifele makes a play like he did on Dylan Strome and things of that nature, when maybe it's not going as smoothly offensively as it's used to being for that group?
Oh, that is so huge. I thought, their last 2 games were really, really strong. Right, there's not points there, but in terms of defining how we play, like I can get Scheif and Wheels points. Right, I'll just put Kyle Connor there, and then we'll put some sort of checking line together so that those guys don't have to go out and play against those guys. But that doesn't mean that we win more. I like what we're doing right now. I like what we've got with our 3 lines. So they clearly, by their play last night, accept that. I mean, they're smart guys. They know there's not going to be the same kind of production, but they played their butts off and they defended, and they were a big part of us winning the game. And there's some maturity there, right? They know they value winning over points for sure.
Well, you've said this is your most balanced team, but is it your most mature and maybe bought-in team?
Well, it's not the oldest team I think I had. I think I had one older a long time ago. But the drivers of our hockey team right now have been here a while. So even though we've made a bunch of changes to how we play the game and we've added some personnel, I think it goes to kind of the Scheifele, Wheeler, whatever it needs to get done to win. There are fewer players in our forward group especially that feel they have to prove themselves offensively, that they need to define themselves by how many goals they get, how many assists they get, that they can go out, they know they're going to get enough, they're all playing with good players, they're excited about their lines, so that they don't have that, it's not even a cheat, but maybe that's the word. They're not going to cheat and haven't been. Still got lots of room to get better in that, but they're not cheating on the wrong side of the puck.
Would apply very much in that mode, being a guy going into his UFA year. What does it say about him that he hasn't cheated but has still been able to play easy enough to
right
produce?
Well, he's smart, and he knows that any kind of play like that is going to lessen his points. He's a smart enough. He's figured it out. You play well, you do the right things defensively, you're going to get more chances with the 2 guys that he's playing with. So he's trying to maximize his offensive game by being a real smart defensive player. It's also not that's his DNA. At the end of the day, his foundation is he doesn't make many mistakes defensively, and I'm talking year over year. There's just not a lot from his very first game that he played. I've shown him, he's seen less video than any player I've ever coached. He just got it. He watches the video. We do video probably all but 10 days a year. We'll have some 5-on-5 teaching stuff. He just watches it, gets it, and it's in his game. So he knows, put numbers up, play the game he is, and he's playing with 2 really good players, so he wants success with that line so he can keep going.
Part of that film study dates back to his football days. Obviously, football is such a heavy sport for a quarterback looking at video.
Yeah.
I think that might be part of...
I don't know, maybe he was drawn to quarterback because he was that mind. Not that he necessarily became that mind as a quarterback, but all the things that you would need to do, he had. That's how he's built, and then it just translates into his game.
Well, how much does a game like last night, where you're able to distribute those minutes very evenly up front and on the back line, and the depth that you just addressed, allow you to play more of the kind of a game you'll need to tonight against the Islanders?
Yeah, so that's the question that in part's going to get answered. So there's 2 pieces tonight. That one I'm less worried about. I think by minutes there wouldn't be a forward out there who got taxed, who got run heavy. Because even at 22 with Mark, he's not doing that on 19 shifts, right? So he's getting more shifts. He's got shift length is right. The bigger question tonight is the maturity that we'll need to accept that this game is going to look completely different than last night, and that has nothing to do with how well we're playing. We play a really structured team. I mean, they're close to about 30 years of age on average. They have played the same game for a while. They don't make mistakes in that game. So that's not going to be loose. And last night was a loose game, right? And I was fine with the way we played, but it was just the style of game that was played. We accepted it well. We did a good job with it. But tonight won't look like that, and that's not going to mean that we're not playing very, very well. But the energy I'm not worried about. We are standard back-to-back. Right, they're going to have a little more, we're going to have a little less, but it's still early in the year. We're not coming off the West Coast and doing it. There's, you know, all the other things that really compound those back-to-backs. This isn't a back-to-back that I'm saying that energy should be an issue for us.
Off the beaten track a little bit. I don't know, did you get a chance to see the McDavid goal?
Oh, I was watching the game.
Yeah, so as a coach, and if you're the coach of the Rangers, do you admire brilliance, or are you equal parts ticked off that 4 guys couldn't stop one?
If that was the one and only time he's ever done it, you're looking at your defenders going, you know, how'd that happen? But you've seen a version of that enough that you're going, holy shit, how did he do that? Right? Like, that is awesome. So you just hope it happens to the other team. But statistically, I think it's going to happen to everybody, right? That just, the numbers just say it's coming to your doorstep at some point.
That piece of video you just toss away, like I don't even know how do you teach 4 guys to defend against that?
Well,
when he just seemingly just
I don't know, like hold hands in the middle and then dive toward your net, maybe. That's high-end coaching right there. You don't have to show the guy, because those 4 guys, it's only been played 102,000 times, so it'd be completely redundant to bring it in your room and show them that clip. They've seen it. And then that one's not dying for a couple of months, right? Like that'll be in year enders. Yeah, they get to hang on to that one.
Would you prefer them to try to trip them in that situation, or does the fact they're running at a 50% power play deter you from tripping in that situation?
So, I mean, in all seriousness, like those guys are going to create things, and the defenders don't necessarily make a mistake on that. That acceleration is just beyond your acceleration. So what do you try to do is anticipate that turn earlier, right? So that you are 1.5 feet, 2 feet closer to him when he comes off that neutral zone counter. And if he comes off with a great amount of speed, it's human nature. I mean, it's Connor McDavid cutting into the middle. Your first reaction is not go forward. So, and that's probably the right reaction. What you would say in coaching is that you have to have gone forward long before the turn. So your gap has to be set way earlier, so that you have an opportunity for physicality possibly in the neutral zone, just a bump, and then go back to the lock arms.
You would have liked what Neil Pionk did the last 2 seasons, and there was a bit of a revolving door at times with partners. But what has the stability of Brendan Dillon done to elevate Pionk, or just to solidify things on that?
Well, I would, and I don't, this isn't related to, you know, Dillon and Forbert as that pair, but our group in total is now spending less time in our end of the ice. So Neil plays an exceptionally physical, aggressive game for not a big man. And so it's minutes in total. So what we were hopeful for over the course of this season, that he can play as intensely and possibly more intensely than he played last year, because he doesn't have to spend 2 more minutes in his end of the ice. So Brendan closes the gap very, very quickly, right? He'll get to a puck, kill a play, and Derek was very good at that. But in terms of speed, he can get to it faster. We can get out earlier. It's just less zone time.
Just one on the difference in style of play you mentioned last night. I mean, there were plays at the offensive blue line. Maybe I'm way off on this. I thought that on the breakout a couple of times, like your breakout was clean and smooth, but it was like second chances to get out. Like a pass recovered and the next one went out.
Right, and there were a lot of plays from corner to almost net front to kicked out wide where it's a 3-pass exit, and you're not going to see that in here tonight by how they position themselves in the offensive zone. So there's going to be more indirect chip outs tonight. There won't be as many clean exits. It's the style of game. They're a very good forechecking team. And a physical forechecking team, so it's just going to look different. We executed well on what was there last night, I thought, on our breakouts. Those things won't be there tonight to execute. It's not a matter of, well, just make 7 passes and out you go. Last night you had more option to use people. We supported the puck well to make those things happen, but it won't be there tonight. Okay, guys.
That'll do it for head coach Paul Maurice, and that'll do it for us on the Jets TV Live pregame show presented by Budweiser. 11 forwards, 7 defensemen. Eric Comrie gets the start in goal for the Winnipeg Jets tonight against the Islanders. We will see you after the game for the Jets TV Live postgame show presented by Budweiser. Until then, we'll see you then. Talk to you soon.